Raw living is a state of mind, a way of being in alignment with your body. Raw living means you put yourself and your body first. Your host, Geeta Sidhu Rob, is the founder of Nosh Detox, located in the UK. They offer innovative raw food smoothies sold across Europe. You experience it in your skin, your body, and your mind. And now it's time for Living Raw Radio.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Living Raw Radio, and me, Geeta Sidhu Rob. I'm your host for the evening. I would say I was your hostess for the evening, but you know how that sounds, so we're not going to go there. But it's lovely to have you. I have a really, really fantastic show today. We're being joined by somebody who is, one of the people that I respect for what they do, because it's just different, isn't it, when you get people that do things because they think it's a job and they get paid to do it. And so, that's just how they're going to do it. And the difference in that and people who do things because they love it. And they've been doing it forever, and they've found better ways to do it, and they learn how to do it, and they understand how they're doing it. I mean, to me, that's just an enormous difference. And so tonight I have one of those people from the categories of they love it, they got good at it, they understood it, and they just kept doing it and got better and better at it. And Fiona Arrigo actually started practicing in 1988, and she started working with people who had symptoms of exhaustion, depression, addiction, all those things that really, when you go to a doctor, there just aren't solutions, are there? You don't go to a doctor and say, I'm really depressed, and they say, oh, goody, here's this thing, and it's sorted, because it isn't sorted. It's a way of suppressing symptoms. You have to take medication to bypass symptoms. There aren't ways of actually fixing a problem. Exhaustion, chronic fatigue, a lot of these kind of problems don't have solutions either. So Fiona was moved to set up a retreat in the UK and create a detox center. So we're going to have a chat with her today about that and why she did that, how she did it, and how she ended up creating what's now known as the Arrigo program. And it's something that basically people fly in from all over the world to come and try. I haven't been lucky enough to try it yet, but I'm going to go and try it. And it's a place where Fiona creates personalized programs for people. She sits with them and works out what it is that they need, why they need it, and then makes them feel better. And so we're going to ask her how and why she does what she does. And mainly it's women, really, that she works with. So that's where we have another resonance with what she does, because we work with so many women. We work with men, but we really, really do tend to, the core of our practice is women. So let's hear, Fiona, you there?
Geeta, I am here, and I'm just loving listening to you, absolutely loving listening to you.
Good. I'm saying lots of nice things about you. You should be loving it.
Also, thank you. Also, your resonance and the way that you express things, and it's just been lovely to hear it. But yes, of course, I love hearing about myself.
But this says, it says that basically you use intuition and intelligence and warmth and humor, and because what you're trying to do is create a sense of self and empowerment of women for themselves, which I suppose makes you more of who you are every day, really, isn't it?
Of course. Yes.
So let me just take you back a step, though, before we get into that. So, 1988, that's a very long time. How did you start with this?
Okay, well, I think it even began before 1988. The journey started about 30 years ago, and it evolved really from always being passionately interested in people. I was always the kid that was staring at people. I was always the person daydreaming and looking at people. I was always involved and actively interested in people. And sort of just on my first Saturn return, I had two very serious car accidents that...
oh, no.
I was told that, they wanted to, at that time, cut off my legs. They said I'd never walk again, and all sorts of things in the outside world. But on the inside world, as I know you're very aware, there was a huge, massive awakening to myself and to myself on subtle levels. And from that, I drew some pretty amazing teachers to me, medicine teachers, Tibetan teachers, yogis, all sorts of things. So I went on a really deep journey, which then, and also to get my body moving, to, because I was in a wheelchair for 2 years and all sorts of things. So I had to learn to use every part of my body again. And the only way to do that for me was to connect with consciousness, not to do physiotherapy. It's not to say that there was nothing wrong with physiotherapy, but for me, this was a journey of consciousness and awareness and putting things back. And from learning to walk again using a methodology of doing yoga and self-study and self-awareness and, when did I shut down, when did I open, that then took me to the emotional realms of inquiry. And at some point on that journey, I built on that. I took a call. I did a 4-year study in biodynamic psychology and psychotherapy, and I covered many disciplines, as I know you will relate to, of what healing is, culturally, cellularly, emotionally, spiritually.
So it means that this thing that happened to you is what set you off on this journey, in essence. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, well, I think absolutely that's what
So is that a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, is it, on one side, it's fantastic that such a thing that could be such a tragedy, in fact, becomes this massive opportunity. On the other side, do we have to go through the tragedy to get the opportunity?
No, that's such a sweet question. I think, it depends on which. It's got a lot to do with, the family of origin. That's a really big philosophical question. But if I just said it simply, I think that a lot of us grow through adversity. A lot of us grow through that moment, especially for women, that moment of heartbreak, whatever it is. What is heartbreak? The heart being broken. So life is always saying, be born anew. So crises and pain can turn into the biggest gifts ever. For me, that 30-year of journeying, as much as it's been painful on many different levels, I would never, ever go back and say, let it be different. Some people may change just in a really sweet way, and that's how it is. But for many, many of us, the opportunity to change is through meeting the pain body and growing through it.
Okay, so then what? Let me just ask you this one thing then. For the one person like you that came and met this opportunity and saw it as that and became and developed and grew out of it, there will be 20 people that didn't. What do you think is the difference between you and the person that didn't take that journey that you took, that didn't make the choices you took, that didn't make it into an opportunity for growth? What's the one thing that you think is different?
Spirit.
Okay, what do you define spirit as?
Spirit, passion, truth, inquiry. I would say that it's to do with really something inside you that has a passion to be something more, and that can be on all scores of your life. And some people are just happy and content to be where they are. So it is the separation in that way, even though I don't believe in separation. But if you've asked me that kind of question, is if you're passionate for change, if you're passionate to find more, if you're a seeker, if you're an inquirer, if you know that life can change always in any situation, that could be a motivation for why somebody may want to do it and somebody may not want to do it. And there's nothing wrong at all with the people that don't want to do it.
No, and I very clearly try to stay away from the judgment. I think that it isn't a judgment about something being good or bad, more that I always wonder where someone turns left and someone turns right.
Yeah.
What made them turn left and what made them turn right?
Yeah. I think it is to do with inspiration and just having that fire of spirit, knowing that there's something more and you're willing to go that bit much further. You're willing to risk. You're willing to die. There's a kind of, it is, in an overused word, a kind of spiritual questing that sets us on fire to say anything. Why would I build a business? Why would I? All these questions that demand a sense of spirit, a sense of something more.
Something that I would otherwise call bloody-mindedness.
Yeah, well, that comes into it as well, because, to be radical, you often need a bit of that as well.
Yeah. I think it's that it becomes the essence of someone who's not prepared to give up, really.
Exactly. But it doesn't have to be bloody-minded. It could just be strong and passionate, alive.
Yeah, okay. And those are choices as well, I guess. Okay, so you went and did all this. You learnt all these amazing things, and you basically, from what I'm hearing, is you used yourself as the guinea pig to see
Absolutely. Alchemy, personal alchemy.
Yeah, you have so much nicer words than I do, but we'll go. I like the whole personal alchemy. It sounds a lot better than guinea pig. But you used yourself in order to work out what worked and didn't work.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm still doing it.
Yeah. So physically, where are you today? So in your journey and in this quest, how's your recovery, do you think, from the accident?
I think, I'm nearly 60, so there's a family arthritis that I'm always looking at. I have a certain amount of restriction, but I am pain-free, and
Well, that's pretty amazing.
And when I go to any doctor, which I have to do from time to time, and they say you need a new hip, you need a new thigh bone, you need a new brain cell, and then they look at the x-rays in comparison to mobility, flexibility, understanding, and it doesn't compute. And then I always say, they say, how are you doing this? Why aren't you on painkillers? The fractures, the breaks, the arthritis, the swelling, all these things that are showing up, and you're not registering them. And the answer is, things that you're passionate about: raw food, high nutrition, mental ease. And it's not that I don't live as, my life is not stress-free. I'm a woman of the 21st century living in the West. It's got full of stress. But it's finding that in-between space where you can live inside and outside simultaneously together.
So you're saying that you okay, so you're trying to live inside and outside. That means that you're sort of trying to go with the flow.
Well, one way is definitely going with the flow, but also it's about awareness. It's really about awareness. It's about working with this energy body, this other heightened sense of sensitivity, and being aware of your energy, being aware of somebody else's energy, being aware also of the physical here and now. How do I get from A to B, and how do I pay the rent? How to kind of deal with it all, but also being very attuned to what I would term subtle energy, because that's the great healer. The subtle energy is the great healer.
Why is subtle energy the great healer as opposed to your energy body in total?
Sorry?
Why is subtle energy the great healer as opposed to your energy body, for example? What do you mean by that?
The energy body is the same as this, is the same as it's subtle. It's refined. It's more. There's a different quality of energy. It's less gross, and therefore it has a different level of fluidity to it.
So you're saying that in order to achieve a balance and a healing, and to be able to be almost spiritually aware in the 21st century, you've got to encompass not just your physical and your mental and your emotional state, but actually your energetic state. Is that right?
Absolutely. I think we need to. I think the energy medicine, energetics is the language, one of the new languages that we will be developing more and more and understanding more and more. Yeah, definitely.
But then where does that leave us with medicines, for example?
I think medicines are great. I think, I'm very, very middle path. I'm not, you have to take, everything can be right for the moment. Nothing should be, in my book, said as wrong. So if you need surgery, or if you need antibiotic, or if you need something, then that's what's right. But it's how you deal with it. It's how the mind deals with it. It's how the mind adapts. It's how the flow of health primarily is expansion. Health is love. Health is flow. Health is freedom. So it's kind of like, even in the most contracted space of anything that you want to do, it's how free can your mind be, how free can your emotional body be to deal with a situation rather than get contracted around a situation.
That means that you're able to integrate. I realize I'm kind of mirroring back to what you're saying, but I'm trying consciously to do that because I'm trying to understand what you're saying with different languaging. And if I mirror it in my language, it helps me to understand if I'm getting what you're saying. Yeah. So you're saying that you're actually integrating what's happening to you every day. And as you integrate it, that's sort of evidence of health because it's integrating on all levels.
Absolutely. I mean, that's perfectly put. And another word for integration is process. Because lots of people, especially women, aren't able to emotionally metabolize. And so a lot of energy or a lot of emotion gets stuck, and it can get stuck emotionally and mentally, but it can also get stuck physiologically because we don't have the time to process or integrate.
So what happens when you want to smack someone? No, but really, what do you do? Because I'm quite comfortable processing the fact that I really want to smack someone very hard. What do you do about that?
Well, I think you need to look, one is, there's so many different aspects. One aspect is, that peace, love, harmony, quietness, inner poise, and being still and not coming from reaction or from a trigger, which basically decentralizes us. And the minute we're decentralized, we are in a position of stress, which means we can get triggered and we're going to want to smack somebody.
So you get out of whack, basically.
You get out of whack, basically.
How do you put yourself back in? How do you put yourself back into centralization?
It's this thing of dropping. It's the awareness of dropping. It's the awareness of breathing. It's the awareness of finding a still point wherever that is in your geography, in your architecture, and finding a place that women need to keep coming back to and coming back to and coming back to, where you just drop. Drop. Come into the silence. Come into emptiness. Come into space. Because this is where a woman's body primarily heals. What we're doing when we're running around all over the place, overcharged, doing, going, is often we're way out of what I would call our body, and we're very in our mental body, zooming around, doing things. And that separation between, in a more medical term, which is the parasympathetic from the autonomic nervous system, causes disease. So we have to be able to drop, be it yoga, be it breath, doing something that's nurturing for you, anything that allows you to slow down, catch your breath, connect, and let go, and then on to the next minute. And that doesn't have to be a whole meditative quality. That's more like a training of awareness to embody more and more of that homeostatic way of being, where you can let the parasympathetic nervous system work for you, rather than most of us being on fight and flight all of the time.
You're saying that what you're doing here is that you're wandering around and you want to go off and smack someone quite hard. And then instead of smacking them, you sort of take a deep breath and find your own center of stillness, the place
Absolutely.
where you come into a balance. And when the work that you do, does it then help? Because everybody's center of balance must be different, right?
Of course, yes. And everybody's...
So if everybody's... Say that again.
Everybody's geometry is different. It's in as much as that everybody is completely individual, and this is something that, we're not allowed to often be from childhood. And this is, number one pain body stuff, is that the individuality isn't supported, and we've got to fit in.
Right. So everybody's got a different balance point.
Absolutely.
And the point of your learning has been that if people could only find their balance point, they would then come back into balance instead of going off into mental rants or whatever else they were.
Absolutely.
And then every time they found their balance and brought themselves back, they would process the issue better, and it would make them not so sick.
Absolutely, because then you're informing the self. If you're
Does that mean?
Hang on. If the self is being informed, then you're more connected to yourself, and then you're less likely to be triggered. We get triggered because we're decentralized, or we're stressed, or something is coming towards us that in that one moment we don't have enough energy to hold, so we respond or we react. React is more accurate.
So basically, if we managed to stay in balance and integrated as a whole person, you could see it for what it was, which would not make you have an impulse to smack it.
Yeah.
We're getting there. It's all this deep intellectual conversation that I'm bringing back down to smacking people, basically.
Okay, no, but that's cool.
So we're going to go on a short break now. Fiona, when we come back from this very short break, can you think, for example, I'd like to make this about a person. If you can think of an anonymous client or an anonymous situation where you've helped someone to understand how to do that, so that if I was listening to you and people are listening to you, they would be able to relate it to a situation. Could you think possibly of that? And then we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Okay, it's my worst thing to do, but yes.
I'm sorry, but we need to be, it's just so fascinating. I want to make it real.
Yeah. All right, okay, I'll try.
So it's Living Raw Radio, and I'm your host, Geeta Sidhu Rob, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Bloated? Is your energy levels really low? Do you find everything that you eat goes straight to fat? My name is Candice, and I am the naturopathic nutritionist at Nosh Detox. I am here to tell you that your body needs a rest. If that sounds like you are ready to try a Nosh juice fast. A juice fast is the most natural way for your body to detox, while providing you all the life-saving minerals and vitamins that your body needs and craves. From beginners to advanced juices, we have all the options that may be available to you or suited to you. Call me on 0845 257 6674 or go to noshdetox.com and click on the right program for you. I'm right here to help you and support you. Thank you.
Nosh Detox is an award-winning company for your ultimate health improvement. Nosh Detox system works on all areas of the body, having dealt with thousands of clients whose health dramatically improved within days. For more details, visit noshdetox.com. noshdetox.com.
Living Raw Radio, and this is Geeta Sidhu Rob, your host, and we're talking to Fiona Arrigo today. And what we're talking about, just before we went on the break, I hope we're still talking to Fiona Arrigo, because just before we left, I asked Fiona to think of a case, a person, a situation, which we can relate to. Because, the thing about people like Fiona, who know huge amounts about everything, is that they just know a lot about everything. And I want something that I can kind of hang on to, and you guys can hang on to, that we can see what it is it worked in, why it worked, and how it worked, kind of just to give an idea. So you there, Fiona?
Yes.
You're still speaking to me, which is lovely.
I'm sort of speaking to you, yes.
So what do you think? I mean, you're finding this actually a really hard question?
Yeah, just because the way I work with people is so spontaneous, and so I'm thinking of people in the moment. So my brain doesn't work so well when I'm looking back to try and bring forth examples. But I'm going to try this for you. So just ask me the question again.
Yes, please. I mean, what I'm asking is, think of a situation or a person that came to you with a problem, and sort of talk us through why you did what you did. And I understand that a lot of it's intuitive and it's really personal, and really you only end up with one person at a time. So what just any example of someone you can think of.
Okay, so the first thing is, if I'm going to give a really simplistic model, and, we are all wonderfully complex, but if I'm going to try and make it really simple, is that first of all, it's to find out what are the trigger mechanisms, what's making you angry, sad, lost, lonely, whatever the qualities are, and to try and do an investigation to try and find out what that point is. So I would call that, in a way, reclaiming yourself, reclaiming what has been lost to you. So identify it, understand it. The next thing that is very, very powerful, and probably the most powerful tool that I would use on myself or anybody else, is teaching people to breathe in a very conscious way. Because the breath has a way of bypassing the mind. The mind plays tricks. The breath knows how to anchor, and how it knows how to ground you. Every hurt, every pain, every place that we're not functioning in, we split, we separate from ourselves. And this brings a series of emotions to it. Most of them are lost, or I can't cope, or I can't manage. So to help somebody manage, you have to bring back a wisdom and intelligence of how to quieten, how to feel. So one of the things is breath. The other thing is really simple for women. And all these things have to be built on. Nothing is like, oh my God, it's going to work in a nanosecond, sadly. Maybe there will come a day when it does. But right now, it's a building process. So you can find a place in your body, like say in your womb, below your belly button, and you just concentrate then, take the mind to that space and just practice being quiet, being still, listening, watching the reaction, noticing the people that make you react, coming back to that place. How still can I be when somebody's making me react? How still can I be in that place when somebody is traumatizing me? How still can I be in that place? And it's practicing and connecting that everything about you is okay. So there are some fundamentals. I love myself, I forgive myself, I accept myself. Is big, big, big practice.
So there's a place where you talk about a sense of self with heart wisdom. What does heart wisdom mean?
Heart wisdom is the compassion of really trusting the body and trusting the cycles of the body rather than trusting the mind. So it's learning to listen internally to yourself rather than reacting again through the intellectual mind. So
that means that it is kind of, I suppose, literally what you're calling it, the wisdom of the heart. So you're saying that you're being able to hear what your heart says.
Absolutely. And when people may think, listening now, I don't have any body wisdom, I don't have any heart wisdom, what's she talking about? But that's only because we're disconnected from that language. What gets us back into flow, this word that's used all the time, are basic principles of practicing love, forgiveness, acceptance, and gratitude. The more we can say thank you for every single incident in our lives, even if it's 25 parking tickets, 35 missed calls, the boss sacking us, the more we practice gratitude, thank you for this, thank you life, thank you for showing me this, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. The more we get into the frequency or the energy of gratitude, the more the mind switch starts to turn, and we start to see life is not working in opposition, but we are working with life. And this is very fundamental, is to know that life is supporting us and we're working with life.
I mean, the problem I have with this is that if you've got 100 people out there, 2 people will say, okay, I get that. 10 people will say, well, I'm willing to try it. But for the remaining sort of 82 people, if I sit here and I allow myself to, number one, if I sit and look at the spot below my navel, I'm going to start thinking about my shopping list. And number 2, sometimes it's just so much pain people are trying to not bring up. That's why they have all the avoidance tactics, isn't it?
Of course.
That's why we eat to suppress it. That's why we run. It's why we do all those things.
Yes, yeah, and this is the separation of through pain is the point that has to be crossed. If people are interested, and this takes you back to the first question that you asked: why do some people do it and why do some people don't? The people that don't may not want to do it, may not have to do it, may not like to do it. A whole lot of reasons. So 82 people maybe that think, oh no, it's too difficult, but one person may think, okay, I'm going to try it. These are the skills that I have learned in my own life. These are the skills that I've taught my children. These are some of the skills that I work with our clients, along with a multi-range body therapy and all sorts of other things.
Well, that's amazing. So how did you teach children how to do this?
Because I teach children to work with the principle that they're okay and self-acceptance, because the first grand disturbance is you're not okay, there's no room for you, I'm not listening, there's no time. That's a primary wound. It's a primary wound. So we're all carrying that for good reasons, bad reasons. Parents have done their best or they haven't done their best, whatever's going on, but many of us Freud said at the beginning of life it was 18 months of your majesty the baby. There's a coherent intelligence that needs to connect to make us feel connected, and that connection helps us in our everyday life. If it's
That's
not
coherent intelligence, what do you mean the coherent intelligence has to connect? From where to whom?
From yourself to yourself. From an inner wisdom, inner wisdom to a gut response, from a higher cortex in your brain to a lower experience in your gut, where you know that you're safe and everything's okay and that you're okay. The amount of people, including myself, in my shadows and in all the places that I'm not healed and I'm still on that journey, where we meet the fragments of ourselves that isn't okay. We're not acceptable, and that can be social, that can be cultural, that can be ancestral, that can be family, it can be all sorts of things. And as healers or change makers, which I believe women are in these times, women are the healers for these times. Women are bringing in a new language for these times, and this new language for these times are women as healers, women as change makers, not women necessarily writing books, but women in the car, women at the bank, women with 5 children, women doing the washing up, women.
So just 1 second, Fiona. So what you're saying is that when you're talking to the children, you have said to children, okay, you've got to work out how to become reconnected with yourself, because you get disconnected when you're children. So really, literally, it's almost an inevitability of what happens, that as children, we become disconnected from our minds from our bodies, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you've done is you've helped these children to understand that in order for them to become whole and to feel and connect, they reconnect. And that's where you talked about the conscious intelligence.
Absolutely, and also with the understanding that every single part, the upset in humanity is that we are splitting and separating from all ourselves, be it shadow or conscious. We are splitting because there is a message going through that we are not okay. And
therefore we're fragmented in how we approach life.
Absolutely. And therefore, yeah.
Where's that message coming from, the one that says that we're not okay?
I think that there's a huge overculture. I think that there's a huge culture of the shoulds and shouldn'ts, the culture of the mother, the culture of the collective.
Does that mean there's too many people telling us how to be?
Yeah, and that we're all caught up, because basically this lack of wholeness, whether we've ever had it, we could say there have been moments in olden times, if you talk about the early Egyptians or the Mayans or fragmental Tibetans or fragments of consciousness that may have held a higher sense of something, but most of us are split and wounded, and so this is what's played out.
But what when you look at something like this, I mean, as a wild thought, who's to say that actually if you went out every night and got drunk and stayed drunk and woke up in the morning and did what you were doing, who's to say that that life isn't just completely perfect for the person who thinks that's adequate?
Absolutely. Nobody could, never, if life's working, bring it on, do it. I mean, it's only yourself. It's only yourself. If drinking through the night and doing whatever is fulfilling you and making you happy, it's an experience. It's an experience. It's only when life isn't working, or you feel you want to go on a path of inquiry, or you want more. And for most women today in the 21st century, we are very strongly up against enormous stress, enormous demand, enormous should and shouldn't, keeping up, having to do, which can make us very dry and very sick.
Yes, true. I mean, if I look around at, say, my 10 best girlfriends, the thing that I find overwhelming that I find really also quite surprising and shocking is that of all of us, the one change between us and our own mothers is that we're the breadwinners for our families.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's just the most incredible change that goes, it's almost going unnoticed as we go through life, but it is phenomenal because we sort of were the nurturers and the mothers and the giving birthers, and we've now become the providers too.
Absolutely, that's so intelligent, and also why I work so passionately with women is because I feel that many women don't get the chance to process because of this, because of being the breadwinners, because of having to use a lot of their masculine, and however much we have adapted into extraordinary career women and super bright and running organizations, the woman's physiology that isn't this is not anti-feminism. The woman's physiology she is soft. She is sensitive. She has sensuality. She has many qualities to her that when it's boom, 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 most of the women I deal with get up at 6:30 in the morning and they finish at 11 at night. And it's constant, probably 6 days a week, if not 7, to keep up, to keep their position going, to keep going. And again, I can't make a comment on that, except that what I know is that when people come to us on the Arrigo program, they need downtime, they need to process, which is why I spend an awful lot of time working with the body, the intelligence of the body, be it through 5-element acupuncture or certain levels of healing or whatever wisdom we're putting in there along with talking, so you get that connection between mind and body, so that the body can assimilate and metabolize and let go of all the holding patterns, because woman is an absorber, and that's not going to change. It's just her polarity. She's picking up and pulling in and pulling into her gut and pulling into her central nervous system stress at a much faster level than what a man would, because a man's physiology is completely different to a woman's.
So I'm therefore, as this 21st century woman, what I'm actually doing is, because I'm absorbing 100 times more stresses and strains, because I'm exposed to 100 times more stresses and strains, I have decided to separate my mind from my body as a coping methodology.
Absolutely. And as a coping methodology, and also that you were probably never instructed by your grandmother or your mother to actually sit in that place where you can make that connection, because these are ancient wisdoms that have been passed down, but most of us haven't had them because there's been wars and there's been a change of evolution and there's been a whole thing of materialism, and the get up and go success is that we're not going to be poor anymore, we're going to be middle class and rich. And with that, the land of opportunity has also come with the possibility of women having to separate from their bodies, from this primal intelligence that just tells them when to stop. It keeps getting overridden. I mean, now,
when you've then turned around and made them balanced, can they still go out and provide for their families? That's not what you're changing.
Of course, no. And are they going to re-experience stress? Of course. But we're just helping to put in this natural intelligence back into the circuitry. So there's an on and off switch, because often there isn't an on and off switch because we keep overriding it. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, hard work, going, shopping, as you said earlier. You know, when there's a pain body thing, we want to fill it with something, so we don't want to think. Television being on all the time. Again, this is part of what we're having to live in, the stress, the pollutions, all these things, bad food, drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, all these things that slow this intelligence, this body intelligence down. And once we begin to find it, it's possible to build on it. Does it mean you live a perfect life? No. Does it mean that you get it right? No. Does it mean that you have an opportunity to process and become more emotionally intelligent to your needs? Yes. Does it mean that you can possibly avoid some sort of illness? Potentially, yes.
So, Fiona, we're just going to go on a short break now. When we come back, this is going to be a better question than last time. I want to have a better understanding I want to discuss and have a better understanding of why and how, when I'm more aware of my emotional intelligence, it just helps me with my illnesses and my balance. So that's something that you do pretty much instinctively. But I just like to break that down a little bit more. So that's not as frightening, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I think all your questions are scary, but we'll give it a go.
I think you do that all instinctively. So we'll be back in a really short while. And this is Gita Sidhu Rob, and it's Living Raw Radio with Fiona Arrigo, and see you in a couple of minutes.
Detox is an award-winning company for your ultimate health improvement. Nosh Detox system works on all areas of the body, having dealt with thousands of clients whose health dramatically improved within days. For more details, visit noshdetox.com. noshdetox.com.
Bloated? Is your energy levels really low? Do you find everything that you eat goes straight to fat? My name is Candice, and I am the naturopathic nutritionist at Nosh Detox. I'm here to tell you that your body needs a rest. If that sounds like you are ready to try a Nosh juice fast. A juice fast is the most natural way for your body to detox, while providing you all the life-saving minerals and vitamins that your body needs and craves. From beginners to advanced juices, we have all the options that may be available to you or suited to you. Call me on 0845 257 6674 or go to noshdetox.com and click on the right program for you. I'm right here to help you and support you. Thank you.
Living Raw Radio, and this is your host, Gita Sidhu Rob, and we're just talking in the break about actually the kind of things people do in order to not feel, in order to remain, not that you know you're out of balance. I mean, nobody goes through life thinking, gosh, I'm out of balance today. I kind of always have my own judgment of when I know that I'm out of whack, and part of that is I do want to smack someone, and part of that is I think I'll just go and eat that. And people use lots and lots of different ways in which to block emotion. They use drinks, they use drugs, they use sex, they use food, and you can always tell when someone's out of balance because one of those things is being overused in their lives, and you can see that from quite far away. So, I mean, Fiona, would that be accurate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so when you see someone walk in, do you almost intuitively start to look at them and think, okay, this is, I feel that your pain would be here?
Yeah, in a way, yes.
So how do people find you? How are they led to you so that you work with them?
Generally, it always has been word of mouth, and we have some really good press articles, and that's it, really, word of mouth and press articles.
No, but when you set up your first detox and center in your retreat, mm-hmm. I mean, how did your first client, because, I mean, the nice thing about the universe is that when you set something like that up, it's kind of flicking a sign to the universe going, right, we're now open for business. I'm here. I'm willing to share what I've learned and understood. And that's really what that's about, isn't it?
It's the law of attraction.
Yes. And then it makes people come in. What kind of people are attracted to the kind of work that you do?
I think, as you said earlier, it's primarily women. I mean, we're certainly not opposed to working with men, but it's primarily women that come. It's people that have either reached a stage in their life that things have become unmanageable. It's people that are on an inquiry that just want more potential. It's people that have been through a form of addiction. But
why not so many men, Fiona?
I think the way that women are, I think it is a time for the feminine. This does not disinclude men. I think that there is something going on right now within women's brains, the receptivity, the multitasking, the generation of feeding, cooking, looking after, all these developmental cycles that have been going on that take us to this point that we're able to take in information and also able to emotionally relate to it because empathy channels are open, nurturing channels are open, and we're able to take information through like that. We're more receptive.
Okay, so it's our time, basically.
It's very much our time. It's so much our time. I mean, this is really a huge passion for me, is to empower women so that women can be themselves in whatever area they're working in, to really reclaim this sense of themselves and their instinct, their beauty, their ripeness, their intuition. I mean, how many times I do this still every day, and I'm talking about it every day. And the reason I'm talking about it every day in the great book is because I need to learn it. And every day, how we know something and we walk over it. We don't listen to that intuition. You know you're not going to get on with somebody, or you know that somebody's going to give you trouble, or you just know. So where does that knowing come from? This central intelligence that is always informing us, and we bypass it. And then we come back and we say, oh, my God, I knew it. How many times, I'm sure if we had a press button on this now and everybody that has felt that they'd overridden the sense of what they know, we do. And this is also what I'm trying to get back into our awareness, is that there is this intelligence, be it higher intelligence, lower intelligence, it doesn't really matter. But the intelligence is there for women, and we know, and to trust that. And when we come into that relationship of trusting that, then we're more, again, centralized in ourselves, and we're not so disempowered. A lot of our pain comes from being disempowered, thinking somebody knows better, giving our power away, giving...
Why do we do that, by the way? Because that's so frustrating. Because even completely intelligent, attractive, just amazing women will do that.
Sure, because I think it's in the code. I think it's in this change that we're going through from, if we're going to use more esoteric language, from an old age of Pisces into the new age of Aquarius. I think the old age had a set of behaviors that served, and suddenly we're coming into a whole new language which is developing, which is about, hello woman, wake up, claim your power, be everything, drop into your feminine, understand life from this portal, because the old way isn't working. And all of us are having to find new skills. And this is, in a way, an awakening into an ancient way, but also a very new way of navigating the 21st century for Western women.
So you're saying that, well, okay, if we're in a place where we're right here now, and it's our time to understand this and take advantage of it, and the lovely thing about it being your time, it means that when you take one step, you get propelled 10 steps, because you sort of are in the right place at the right time. What happens if we don't want to do that or don't feel safe doing that? What are the things that we can do to bring us to a place where we feel safer being even ready to contemplate the journey? I mean, like I sat yesterday morning with a client of mine who literally, I've been thinking of her while we've been talking, who's won one of our food programs. The interesting thing about food is it does make you, when you change people's nutrition, their emotions change so much. You know,
Absolutely.
She's found herself in tears again and again over this 2-3 week program. She's just, I mean, her weight loss was not great or anything. She was just trying to cleanse more, and that's worked. But she rang me in tears, and she's so depressed, and she doesn't know what to do, and she just feels awful and like there's no hope, and her therapist wants her to go on antidepressant medication, and and I sat there with this poor woman, and I was like, look, you could do this, or we can try this, or how about this, and there wasn't even a flicker. How do you get even the flicker in place, or do you have to wait for things to get bad before that?
Sometimes you have to get bad, things have to get bad, but I could say on a superficial level, one of the ways to do it is to cultivate things that are good for you, to be around people that inspire you. Inspiration is huge because it opens the center. So reading books, learning about things, listening to people, only taking good things into your body that slowly, so that's good food, good television, nice people, all that sort of thing is building that broadband of experience. And then at much deeper levels, it's coming back to where did life force, where did life energy disengage? And as you detox in some people's cases and you take away the food that has been holding things in place, or the density starts to move because you're vibrating at a different level or a different frequency, then the stuff that has been held down or suppressed or ignored starts to rise up, and you're basically at that point you're going through a healing crisis. And the healing crisis, you need to have really great support, you need to journal, you need to find things that liberate you, and you need to know, again, coming back to this very important medicine, is that you're safe. It's safe for you to take a journey. We're conditioned by some false self in this 21st century that we have to feel good, Dr. Feelgood. Dr. Feelgood says, make loads of money, you'll feel better. Don't lose 20 pounds off your ass, you're going to feel...
But I don't see that in her, I don't see that in her.
No, I'm not talking about her, but I'm just saying in a more rounded way is that we have got these social restrictions that say that we have to feel good so that we're not held, or we're not held by community or wise women or wisdom holders anymore. All that places of where we would have gone before for nourishment or insight or being told that it's okay, and these are rites of passage, have been removed. So the minute we feel bad or we're lost, somebody wants to give us, to sedate it, to push it back down again.
That's really clever what you just said, because so you're saying that
bingo. Do that again.
I think all of what you've said is really clever, but I think what's so on the button is that it's almost like you're saying that we have a rhythm, and that sometimes the rhythm is up and sometimes the rhythm is down. Absolutely. But that we're not actually learning to listen to that because we've forgotten to be in touch with ourselves.
Absolutely, and to know that when you're down, you're okay. This is the thing, is that when you do the different types of processing, be in the law of gratitude, be in the law of acceptance, be in the law of understanding, that life is often untidy and messy and uncomfortable, but how can you stay connected to yourself to ride that moment?
Right, and so sitting there and thinking, okay, yeah, but I mean, because you can see the pain. I mean, the pain is so real, and I mean, I can see that.
It's so real, and I know that place. I know that place of desperation and depression and pain and sadness and loss and being scared. I know them, and it's part of the journey, and it's part of how do we navigate through that bit and not lose our heart, not lose our connection. And this is why I think it's really important to reinstate the wise woman, reinstate the wild woman, reinstate the woman of mystery, reinstate the wisdom, the woman of inspiration, all these in a way old-fashioned muses that have been divorced and replaced by other things in society that says, I just heard that song, money can't buy you love. That is that we have to go back to something beyond gratification and trying to fill in, because rather than feel, and it's the very feeling body that will liberate us, that will make us, in the end of some time of not feeling great, as we detoxify, come back to ourselves.
Well, I mean, and it's also when you look at children. I mean, I often have these conversations with clients, but when you look at children, and you tie your shoelaces, and somebody goes, oh, don't worry, try them again. You try to tie your shoelaces. And then somebody goes, no, you're doing really well, try it again. And then you finally try and get your shoelaces, and somebody goes, gosh, that's so clever. Whereas when you cry, somebody goes, stop crying.
Absolutely.
And you think, well, oh, hey, hang on a minute. And, that's stop crying, or get a grip, or no, it's not the right time to cry, or have a sweetie, which is even worse. That when you get to that mentality and understanding and learning in those ways, it just stops you thinking that emotions are safe places to be. So that almost is the core of where we're coming from, that if we can teach our generations that are coming that emotions are okay, that you can have them without having excessive hysterics all the time.
Absolutely.
But because excessive hysterics is also a way of getting out a feeling, isn't it?
Well, hysterics is just trapped energy. It's overcharge. So you have to discharge energy and use emotions as a vehicle, as purely information that you don't have to react to, that you can watch and understand, rather than, again, what we've been talking a lot about tonight is rather than feel that you're doing something wrong or you're bad or you're not achieving. I mean, I gave a session yesterday, or somebody was writing an article about it. It's all about the sort of suppression of tears and how women have to kind of control themselves in the workplace. And exactly what you said is that we're not allowed to express emotion. And we are emotional creatures, as much as men may roll their eyes and go, my God, you'll never understand a woman. Actually, we're very understandable, but it's when we have the capacity to really express our emotions clearly, so that we're not hysterical, or we're not reactive, or we're not crying, or we're not, in this place of overload, that this beautiful, amazing wisdom of woman who can hold so much and heal so much and give so much, and is so needed right now if we are going to survive in this crazy, wacky world that we're living in, that women, all of us, have to become our own anchors, our own change makers. So,
well, and also men when they show emotion are it's held against them. They're not meant to show emotion, and from boys don't cry.
Yeah, it's the whole stamping out. Feeling is not allowed. Feeling is bad. Stop it. Work hard. Go to wars. All these things that have been written into time that have held, and we can't go back and say it was wrong. But something is happening now that is liberating consciousness in a different way. So we're having to find different skills as we are evolving through these times.
Yeah. And I mean, and in fact, the answer, the funny thing is that no matter how far you journey, the answers are still in the same place they always were, which is inside yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, inside yourself, and love.
You mean loving yourself? Loving
yourself, being loving, seeing life as loving, being in that type of feeling state where, as I said earlier, life is not working against you, no matter what. What happens when you go into love, acceptance, or any of these qualities, gratitude, is that you expand, your psychic emotional muscles expand, and you can take more of life. Broadband, as I call it, expands. When we're not allowed to process, it's small, it's anorexic, it's not able to feel itself.
Yeah, it doesn't have the strength of use.
And therefore, our experiences of life are limited, and therefore our coping mechanism is limited. And we need to be able to take more and more and more and more of life in. The more life in, or as Deepak Chopra would say, the more we live in the field of potentiality, we are constantly regenerating, and life will continue to live on. When we stop regenerating because we're not able to process, then we're going into a degenerative state.
Yeah, so you're only ever doing one or the other, actually. You're either regenerating or degenerating. There isn't ever a thing such as standing still. I mean, Fiona, it's been really fantastic having you on. I want to make sure that we get everybody your web address. And the one I have here is www.thearrigo.program.com. And that's spelled, is that the right one?
No, I don't think so. Hang on, let me just look it up for you. I think it's www. Let me just look it up. The Arrigo program. Sorry, just bear with me.
No worries. Tell us what it is.
Okay, so it's where is it, Kate?
Just the Arrigo program.
www.thearrigoprogram.com.
Right, so there isn't the middle dot. So it's www.thearrigo with a double ME.com. And It's been really fantastic having you on, and it's been such an interesting conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Geeta. Really, thank you so much. Great work.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. And this is Living Raw Radio with Geeta Sidhu Rob. That's been so much fun. That's been really intellectual. It's been interesting. It's been clever. And I've really learned something.